name's Bill Block. I'm the project director of the Committee to End Homelessness in King County. That's the broad coalition of nonprofits, governments, faith communities, business people, and homeless and formerly homeless people who have come together to implement the 10-year plan to end homelessness in King County. And before we start, it's useful to think about what it means when we talk about homelessness. And when I started this work, I was speaking with a friend of mine who speaks a different language. And his word was different than ours. His word was without fixed abode. And the penny sort of dropped. It's not whether or not you have a piece of tin to keep over your head or whether or not you've got a mat on the floor. It's whether you've got a place to center your life, to deal with the problems that all of us deal with. And when we talk about homelessness in King County, we talk about the people on the streets, and there are about 2,500 people on the streets, actually 2,700 in the last count, literally on the streets, in tents, in cars, under bridges. There are about 2,500 people in emergency housing. And that's often the kind where you come in at 7 o'clock at night and lights out at 10, and you have to get up at 5:30 in the morning and leave with all your belongings. And then there are about 3,500 people, mostly families, that you can stay for 90 days or sometimes as much as 2 years, but at the end you have to leave. So that's about 8,800 people. And that's a very hard number to wrap your mind around. And I'll give you an oral with an A demonstration in a few minutes on what that is. But the good thing is that it turns out people care. When we started this work, United Way did a survey across King County. And they started with the question, what are the 3 most important issues facing King County? And the answer came back, education, transportation, and homelessness. And they asked the question, homelessness is too big a problem to be solved, agree or disagree. And 84% of King County disagreed. And they said if you gave agencies the money they're asking for, could they end homelessness? And 57% of King County said yes. And then they asked the question I think is behind that. They said, have you or anybody in your immediate family ever been homeless? And 24% of King County said yes. It's something that affects all of us. And when we look at those 8,800 people who are homeless, of those who are in emergency shelter and transitional housing, 27% are kids under the age of 18. About half are in families. Now, a lot of the people on the street are single adults, but there's still a lot of people who are young, who are in families, who are unattached adults, who are just like you and me, who are homeless. So how did the 10-year plan come about in King County? It actually started from St. Mark's Cathedral. They hosted Tent City. And one of the things that Tent City teaches people is that homeless people really are just like you and me. They just had some really bad breaks. And the dean of St. Mark's Cathedral, Dean Robert Taylor, said we should get together and make a plan to end homelessness. And there were then going on elsewhere in the country some 10-year plans to end chronic street homelessness. But Robert said, no, we really need to address all homelessness. And it took a long time. Some people like to say that in Seattle, King County, process is our most important product. They worked from 2000 to 2005 to create the plan. But it came together. It's an 86-page roadmap on what you need to do in terms of prevention, what you need to do in terms of housing and services to end homelessness. And when we talk about ending homelessness, we don't mean that no one will ever become homeless. What we mean is that we prevent homelessness as much as possible. And when someone does become homeless, we rapidly help them move back into stable, long-term housing. We don't warehouse people in emergency shelters. That's what ending homelessness means. So what are the principles of the plan? Principles of the plan are, first of all, prevention. Prevention means both short-term economic support for the people who are feeling the ravages of the recession. It means job training for young moms who currently, in a minimum wage job, can't afford housing for themselves and their kids. But it also means not discharging people from our institutions into homelessness. 1/3 of everybody in King County Jail is homeless. And if they're sent back out onto the streets with no supports and no housing, they're right back in. We know that when we discharge people into housing with services, that people stabilize and that behaviors change. Those people who are homeless in King County Jail, most of them are mentally ill. They're in for minor crimes. They're not in because they're criminals. They're in because they have a mental illness. And we need to stop sending them back out onto the streets. We need to stop discharging kids from foster care into homelessness. I don't know how many of you have raised an 18-year-old, but suggesting that an 18-year-old go out and find first month's rent and last month's rent and a deposit and they're on their own is not a recipe for success. We need to stop discharging people from our psychiatric and our physical health institutions into homelessness. Right now, people can come out of Western State Hospital with a week of medication and no place to go. So that's part of prevention also. The other big piece is combining housing and services. If I say to you when you're dealing with alcohol addiction and you're living under I-5, when you're clean and sober, I'll house you, it's not going to work. If I say, here's housing, and if you remember to make 3 phone calls, and one of them is actually an old number and has been disconnected, and you take a bus on every Tuesday and Thursday if you remember, you can get treatment. That's not going to work either. We've learned that combining housing and services really does work. Dealing with homelessness through our emergency systems is very expensive. They did a study of the 50 highest utilizers of Harborview in the Sobering Center, alcoholics who had been on the streets for years, and they cost an average of $50,000 per person per year in emergency services. We created a facility called 1811 Eastlake, which said you have to behave in the building, you've got to behave in your room, you've got to behave on the street, but whether you're drinking is not the issue, which I like to tell people are actually the rules in my house too. And to house the people who were the most vulnerable, the highest utilizers of emergency services, people who everyone said they don't want to be housed. They've been on the streets for 20 years. They've failed the program 6 times. They started with a list of the highest utilizers. They went down in rank order to fill 75 beds. They only had to ask 79 people. And the people who came into the facility dropped their emergency service usage by $4 million in 1 year. They compared the people living in the facility, 1811 Eastlake, to the people who were on the wait list, who looked just like them. People on the wait list cost $2,500 per person per month, more than the people living in 1811 Eastlake, and that's including the cost of their housing and services. So the second big reason for ending homelessness is that it is much more effective than dealing with people through our emergency services. So what have we done? We have created, in the last 4.5 years, over 3,300 units of housing to help people leave the streets and get the services they need. Our prevention work touches about 5,000 people a year now. But to fully explain what we're up to, I need to go to one other piece of the plan. We have gradually, over the last 4 years, created a coordinated funders group. And the coordinated funders group is really an envy across the nation. We've brought together the City of Seattle, King County, Seattle Housing Authority, the King County Housing Authority, Suburban Cities Representation, the Gates Foundation, United Way, and Building Changes. And we all sit down in a room and say, what do we want collectively to create in our system? And there's one notice of funding availability out to the providers, there's one application, there's one grading round, and we put together the housing, the services, the prevention, all of what we want in one package, as opposed to being piecemeal and fragmented and uncoordinated. And that's allowed us to be very effective. And the 5 priorities of the funders group are, first of all, to continue production. Our goal is very ambitious. Our goal is 9,500 units over 10 years. To give you a comparison, Portland's goal is 2,200. Denver's is 4,000. San Francisco's is 3,000. So we're very ambitious. We've already done 3,300 units. In this recession, it will be hard to keep at that pace, but we hope we will. The second is to open up housing to people who are blocked. Right now, if you have an eviction on your record, you have a bankruptcy on your record, you have an old felony, you probably can't get housed. So we have the Landlord Liaison Fund, which goes out, tells landlords they'll get 24/7 response. This is a person who is vouched for. There's a big guarantee fund, and they've opened up the doors that are held by over 90 landlords in over 150 buildings to people who otherwise would be unable to find housing. The third is to create coordinated entry for families. And one of the things you should know about the system is that it has traditionally, and across the country, been very fragmented. And a family right now goes from door to door of provider in an endless circle, knocking on the door to see when the next unit might open up. And they go around and around across the county. We're creating a system where they can go one place, they can have their needs assessed, they go on one list, one placement list, and the first right unit that opens up for them is where they get to go. It may be a unit that's got substance abuse treatment, or maybe they don't need that. Then they shouldn't be in that program. They should be in a different program that may have job training. So tailoring the services to people really becomes possible with that sort of system. We're also doing coordinated entry for chronically homeless single adults, so that when we open a new facility, like McDermott Court up in Lake City, we look across the county and say, who are the right people who need the help that this building has to offer? So those are some of the things we're doing. We have combined housing and services in a variety of ways to reduce criminal justice involvement, to reduce physical health issues, to address the most vulnerable people, as well as to address the families in need. We know that housing plus services, plus mental health services, job training services, credit repair services, are what are necessary to help somebody leave homelessness. But one of the things we also have to keep in mind is the fact that our overall housing crisis makes it very difficult for a number of people to stay housed. Right now in King County, somebody has to earn over $18 an hour in order to afford the median priced housing. Now, if you're a single mom with 2 kids earning minimum wage, that is not going to be enough to afford housing. So in addition to everything else we've talked about in the 10-year plan, in terms of combining housing and services and getting people back on their feet and stable, we as a region need to address the housing crisis. We need to make sure that the suburban cities accept the sort of density that allows lower priced housing. We need to make sure that we preserve the lower priced housing we have. So that's sort of a much broader but nonetheless important issue in addressing homelessness in our region and in our nation. When we speak of homelessness and we speak of 8,800 people being homeless on any given night in Seattle, King County, 2,500 in emergency shelter, 2,700 on the streets, 3,500 in transitional housing, it's hard to grasp what that number means. So I want to give you an oral, with an A, not an O, a sound demonstration of it. It may be a little odd to ask someone on television to close their eyes, but I'd like to do that so that you just listen to the sound and what the sound is of 8,800 people who are homeless. So if you close your eyes and listen, I want you to listen to the sound of me. That's one little ball bearing dropping. And the number of people in my family. And the number of people who are in a book club I've got. So that gives you a sort of baseline. Now listen to the number of people who are homeless on any given night in King County. That's the number of men, women, and children who are homeless on any given night in King County. So one of the things that's been very useful in working to end homelessness is the willingness of the voters to address it. The Seattle Low-Income Housing Levy, which was in November, $140 million for housing, passed by 67%, even in a recession. The King County voters have passed the Vets and Human Services Levy that is helping veterans and families, and the Mental Illness and Drug Dependency Sales Tax, which makes sure that people get the treatment they need, everything from young adults who are missed often to the elderly who are very vulnerable. So people in King County understand that to build a healthy community for all of us, even the most vulnerable need to be helped. And we find that in cities, in faith communities, in political groups on both sides of the aisle across the county. So where do we go from here? We need to continue the strong production of housing. We need to continue to find the service money that's necessary to help people. And frankly, the state budget, cutting people off basic health, cutting people off what's known as the security lifeline for people who are disabled and can't work, will not make it easy. But we do need to find those funds. We need to continue to prevent people from becoming homeless, because once you've become homeless, everything else becomes harder. And we need to continue to build the political will, the understanding that our community is one in which we should not see families living in their cars in the parking lot of big box retailers. We should not see an older vet who is mentally ill wandering down the street talking to himself with no place to stay.
Well, of course, moving up here 10 years ago from Texas, where it wasn't as ubiquitous as it is here, you can just, it kind of freaked me out to be able to walk the street and there's, you know, mentally ill people, physically disabled people, and of course, as I learned recently, families, entire families just on the street. You know, who's going to take care of them and how? I mean, so many people just can't help their situation, and it's just getting worse.
And accept them for what they are. Don't go to them with your agenda. Just go and be a human being. Be kind, be compassionate. You know, I heard a saying once in life, they said that small things done with great love will change the world, and I believe that. So whatever you can do, it doesn't have to be giving money, it could be giving your time.
So besides the hard work that families put into finding shelters, the calling every day, several times a day, even with all that work that they do, a lot of times it is the luck of the draw. It's the makeup of the family. I had one family, 2 parents, 2 children, no substance abuse problems, no domestic violence. And the mom said, "Nancy, we're just a normal family. We can't find any shelter." Lately, the waits have been 2 months to get into a shelter. The face of a homeless family is any face, and it's almost a full-time job to be homeless.
And while that family is waiting for a shelter or some place to call home or to sleep, imagine just for a moment if you were in that situation. You had no money coming in, no place to go home to, no place to go to close the door on the world, even for a minute. You're not even sure where you're going to go to the bathroom next. Where do you store your clothes for tomorrow? What happens to your special trinkets that we all have? Whether it be a piece of jewelry, your child's drawing that they made for you years ago, a gift from one of your parents as a child. What happens to those items? Mentally, when do you regroup? Physically, when do you get to rest? And emotionally, when do you heal?
A person or a family or a group or a generation or a culture or a race, it's no longer something minimal. It's no longer a third world country problem. It's no longer, you know, I mean, it's really more like, what's the word, like an epidemic. It's happening here at home, in my community, in my blocks, in my city, my family, my friends. You know, it's a bigger thing now. So if it's that big to me and so obvious, and it's causing, you know, the states and the governments to be involved here, and it's causing people to rise and make an issue about it, then shouldn't we start now actually, you know, like looking for solutions, you know, immediate solutions, whether it's state solutions, whether it's, you know, across the whole states, you know. I mean, if we can do it in the third world countries to provide supplies and fly them over and ship them in boats and build houses and build schools with donations, I don't see why we can't find a immediate solution here. If we can tax people to build bridges and on lottery and everything, why can't we find something like that? You know, I've seen, you know, I've been to food shelters. I picked up food, I picked up bread. There's companies, there's organizations donating all these things for us. And they're showing the willingness and efforts to actually help at a low level. Imagine what a corporation with $1 billion can do. I mean, just something like that. Not even $1 billion, just a couple hundred, a couple thousand. I mean, tents, you know. I see modular homes in Alaska, you know, being built in less than a month, and 200 to 400 people having a house in less than 2 weeks. I mean, it's possible with the technology and the capability we have now to build so many houses, and all these empty houses we have that we can't even rent or sell. Why not offer different programs? Why not offer it to people who need it? Why not offer jobs? Why not offer things like this and use it, you know, instead of, you know, isolating or segregating people to a certain category, you know. And it's not that way anymore. It's no longer a race, no longer a culture. It's no longer the blue collar, the rich people or the poor people. We're all being affected by the same thing. The bottom line is. And if you really don't see the problem, then you're choosing not to see the problem, because it is there. You're intentionally ignoring it on purpose, to not be a part of it or make a change with it or change it, because you're not really seeing with your eyes anymore. You're just walking through like it doesn't mean anything. And if you're doing that, and we are human, then you start saying that about yourself, that you don't care. You don't care about your neighbor. You don't care about your mother, your aunt, your uncle, because that's who it is. That's who it is. That's my family. That's your neighbor. That's your coworker. And it could be you tomorrow. And if it is, then what? Would you want me to do that to you? No, I wouldn't do that to you. You know, I hate to say it, but it takes a catastrophe to bring everybody together, and that's not what you want, you know. And I've seen it. 9/11 brought everybody together. Nothing mattered in the world, but everybody was helping each other. It was a devastation. It hurt everybody. It was a catastrophe. But nothing mattered at that point. All you saw was people helping each other, doing everything they can. They didn't matter what race, color, age. Nothing mattered, and everybody was helping each other because we were all a part of it. And this is what it's going to be, and it's becoming that way. So, you know, just hope. I guess I just hope, and I have faith too that, you know what, there will be solutions for this, and I will be a part of it. I know that because I've been through it. So I see ideas. I have ideas. I work with organizations. I'm a part of organizations that work and do these things and collect donations and give to the homeless and feed the people. On Thanksgiving Day is not only the only time you should do it. You know, share it to kids. Do it other times too. Go down there and take sandwiches down there. Go to the dollar store and buy gloves and mittens, and for $1, $20, and you can give them these to people, and it doesn't take very much effort, and you're wasting these $20 on lottery or whatever. Give them hats and scarves and gloves, and don't expect nothing in return. See how you feel. Do it all year, you know, not just once a year, not during Christmas, not during Easter, not during Thanksgiving. And if we could all do that, I mean, it makes a big difference. If you see these smiles on these people, that somebody actually cares, that they're not an animal or somebody that's kicked out and that no longer matters. They're not that way. We're humans. We're people that are just struggling and just are looking for somebody to help. And when you look at me, I'm not just nothing. I am somebody that has value, that has feelings, that has a heart. I'm a soul, and I'm still breathing, and I'm still alive, and I still need to eat, and I get cold. Just because I don't have a house or a job and I look dirty, it doesn't make me any different than you that has a suit or pants. And I've been there, and I understand that, and I see it.
Absolutely. People are homeless for a whole variety of reasons. The downturn in the economy has affected a lot of people. Many of the people who've come here to Family Village in the last 12 months are directly because they lost their job, either one or both parents, maybe they're single parent homes. We also have had many people who also have had medical issues and lost their home because of that, accidents, and certainly some people are fleeing issues of domestic violence, other issues that they might have. But a great majority of people that become homeless is really through a circumstance that we haven't seen before. Because homelessness is something we can all do something about. We can be part of the solution.
Took a walk around, and as I strolled into this land, I turned my life around. Yes, I flipped my hand.